Hey there, I'm Stacey De Witt, and this is the first episode in a podcast series that I am creating. I was really inspired to begin to share about some of my experiences, what I've learned in my journey on my own life experiences, as well as working with clients for many years in a one-on-one type of setting. And listening to people's stories, the details vary, but so many similar themes about not feeling good about self, struggling with anxiety, struggling with depression, like all of these things. And as I've worked with this for so many years, I've had really big shifts in perspective about all this. So I wanted this to be a place where I could begin to share some insights that, like I said, like I've experienced, what I've observed, being around other people, even like friends, and my own experience of, loss of relationships in my life, and reflecting on why did that happen, and like shifting from the perspective of things happen to me instead of things happen by me and for me. So welcome. And I'm just making a quick introductory video, and then there'll be lots more videos. And I do invite you to share about topics, questions, aspects of this human spiritual awakening experience that you have questions about. And I'll say more about what I mean when I say awakening. So when we're living life day to day in some version of survival mode, we're just in our head thinking that we're just here to get things done. We might have some wants and desires. I, want to do this for a career. I want kids, a family, a house, a car, want to be able to travel. All of those are great things for our human experience. That's great. For me, I found that when I got those things, had those experiences, it did feel good and there was a level of fulfillment. But then it was like, why do I feel like I just don't really feel fully fulfilled and fully joyful? And I realized that by trying to get the experiences, the items, whatever it was, kind of like when I get that or have that, experience that, I will feel happy. I will, it's like trying to fill something up. And a few years into my work as a therapist, I'm right now doing like coaching and expanding into like non-diagnosis type of expansion is where I'm really, really passionate. But earlier on as a therapist, I would meet with a variety of clients and a lot of people who had really tremendous amounts of trauma and were really struggling just existing in their day-to-day life. But there was a client in particular who shared that she goes beyond this physical human dimension. And I was so curious about that. I'd never heard that before. And she was sharing about the teachings of a particular person. His name is Matt Kahn. And because I wanted to be able to support her in where she was at, I looked him up and started, he has lots of videos on YouTube and some books, but I started listening to his videos. And he was talking about things like why we are actually depressed, what's really going on, and how we don't feel like we're enough in the world, and why we struggle in relationships, and what's really going on from a much more expansive, soul level, divine purpose, like framework. Not even a framework, but it's just a whole other take on what I now see is really going on. So that started the process of what I call awakening. Waking up to initially the possibility that what I think about me isn't really the truth. That my experience being a human, living in my head, is only one possible reality and one possible way to live my life. And when I delved into it further, I came to realize that the reason I felt like something was missing was that I wasn't really fully connected with myself. And I refer to my higher self, intuition, my soul, because in my mind, what I was thinking wasn't connected to my passions. It could be at times, but after exploring this for so many more years, and even much more so in the last few years, that if I'm trying to make a decision on something or decide on a course of action, this is not where I want to make it from. The pros and the cons and do the research and what's logical, that's can feel really hard to get away from as a human, because that's what we're taught. But what other people think is right for me, like whatever the research, whatever the professional, whatever the expert, and I looked outside myself for so many years when I was struggling with my anxiety and mild levels of depression and feeling unfulfilled. And it was like I wasn't getting any answers that made any sense. And I was putting the authority in other people. Like they knew. They had the answers and I didn't. And where that would leave me every single time was doubting myself. Believing that there was one right way and I just had to do it. And it's interesting. I've grown up in the United States and a whole different set of values and everything if you compare it to any other country. And I'm like, why is this the one way? Why are all these shoulds and expectations and really limitations on my experience? So now I feel like I'm in my mid-50s, expanding into infinite possibilities now. I still struggle with getting in my head, having some fear about wanting some things to change, because wanting is the energy of not having whatever it is that you want. Yes, we're going to desire things, but now I'm reframing it into what would I like, what would feel good, just because it would feel good, and not feel good like to escape my problems or just distract. There's nothing, we don't need to sit in our problems all day. Like that does not help. I figured that out working with people as therapists. I'm like, yes, you do need to share and talk some, but I found that it was like reliving stories, like reliving past stories, and especially when it came to traumatic stuff. Wow, there's no benefit in that. There are ways to clear the impact of our past, be present in the now without burying it all. Because we do that to survive, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not about right or wrong. It's about what kind of life do we want to live? What do I want my life to be like, and not limiting myself? I love to ask now open questions. Just like, how good could it get? What are all the amazing experiences I might be able to have that I don't even know about, and let my intuition call it in? Because everything's connected. We are expansive beings. And if we can just realize we don't need to try to control and make everything happen. That is certainly in the United States, a very much like, just go do it, make it happen. That comes from an energy of feeling like we're alone. We don't need to do anything alone. It doesn't work. And anyone who calls on, feels like they have a faith in the divine God, universe, source, spirit, whatever you want to call it, there's no model you should follow. There's no shoulds at all. And so in the episodes I'm going to be creating and sharing for my podcast, this is what I'm going to talk about. And I invite you to comment. I invite you to put out questions, things that you're curious about. And let's empower one another. What has really helped me was accessing platforms like YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and books and things, is to open myself up to new possibilities and perspectives, because it takes practice and consistency with regard to letting go of these stories. Let yourself feel what you feel without the story. And just even notice what happens if you go, oh, I'm anxious. Oh, I have this tightness in my chest. And then we go, oh, why? Or, oh, I know why it's this. Just notice what happens when you go, what's the sensation like? If I just looked at the sensation in my body, allowing it to be there. And I love to teach some tools. So some different tools I teach. You can find some videos on my YouTube channel. I'll get into some of it in my podcast episodes. But to really fully experience them, it's really helpful to do a one-on-one. And I can even eventually probably do some groups where 3, 4, 5 of us come together. It's very powerful to work in groups in an expansive space where we're not going to come together and just like share our problems. It's literally to look at it from a loving awareness perspective that what you think you are is not the truth of who you are, but what you believe is powerful and it matters. And so it's not about, there's a lot of stuff out there about just shift your mindset, right? And your whole life will change. You got to embody it. Connect with your heart. The heart is the bridge to the soul, to the divine, to getting out of your head. So it's funny that it's encouraged just to stay in your head. Like, wow, I'm speaking from my personal experience. I'm speaking from working with people as a therapist, a guide, a mentor, a coach, all of that. And I see people transforming so much when they get out of their head and they stop telling themselves the stories, when they believe that they are an amazing human being in all their imperfection. We're here to be on a journey. We're not supposed to know how to do everything the very first time we try it. And what do? We go, oh, I made a mistake. I don't believe in mistakes. I don't believe in failures. Do I believe in reflecting and owning things that I've said and done? I've said and done things that people have reacted, right, to in their response. They would feel hurt and things like that. And do I care about that? Yeah, I'm not going to be like, sorry, that's your problem. However, I'm no longer taking that into my body and going, oh my gosh, now I feel shameful about myself because I've made them feel bad. We don't make anyone feel anything. They're in their body, in their process. And if you are ready to like step into taking ownership of what you feel, no one's making anything happen to you. You choose what you choose. And that's a very empowering way to live life. It's a whole new reality. Get out of setting expectations for what you need and want to happen. Try it out. Try out. When you're going to a movie, if you're going to go to lunch, you're going to go do something with someone or by yourself. Set the intention of a blank slate. That you invite just connection and experiencing with that person or with yourself or both. And if you've never done that, just notice what happens. Notice, did it work? Or did your mind keep coming in? And just have full presence. Like if you're with another human, really listen to them with curiosity and caring about what they're sharing. Instead of, what am I going to say next? Right? Because we do that. We're ready. Or they're talking and they're struggling. We want to solve their problem. So, and I've been there, done this. I still struggle with this. I am not speaking from, wow, I have it all figured out. I don't have it all figured out. But we're not alone. And if we all don't share our experiences, how do we know? It's because so many people put themselves out there on all these different platforms. I am so grateful. People are sharing. They're being authentic and not just, hey, they act like they got it all figured out and they have these perfect lives. Perfect, whatever that means. And then on the other side of it, we can, it's not their fault, but then we can be left feeling like, wow, I want that life. My life doesn't feel like enough. Now, can that be inspiring? Yes, it can show us the contrast. What you don't want. Let that help you expand into what you do want. Let that be like the diving board or the something. I can't think of a good analogy right now, but or a good metaphor. Allow yourself to be inspired by that. And the last thing I'll say in this first episode is learn how to appreciate yourself. We often will appreciate, if we do appreciate it all, we appreciate what others do for us. Maybe you appreciate what you do for them, but how often do you appreciate yourself and what does that even mean? And so for me, creating and sharing this video is me appreciating myself and appreciating you because we're all connected, even if we don't know each other. Everything's about energy. There's no separation, but we live as though there is. That may not make sense, and I'll get into more of that later, and there's lots of, I think, wonderful teachings on this. And Matt Kahn is a really good one to listen to for this, as well as others. Kyle Cease is another really good one. And sorry, I got myself off track. So just I don't know where I was at. So I'm just going to close by saying, oh yeah, self-appreciation. Do something you like to do for you. And don't even call it self-care. Because that gets to be in the to-dos or the shoulds. It's not about, oh, I should do this to take care of myself. If you could sit down in silence for a few minutes, ask your higher self, what would you like to do right now? See what pops in. And if it's something that isn't, I mean, it should never be something harmful or bad for you or whatever. And then try to go do it. Whatever it is, try to go do it. And just notice how that feels. And yeah, feel free to share, comment. If you want to meet one-on-one with me, there's a scheduling link. And either way, I just stay tuned to more of my podcast episodes, and I'm really happy to have you here.